Hello lovely people, today I will show you a thriller, crime and action film from 2013 titled Homefront. A biker gang enters a bar and goes in the back into a secret lab. Broker gets off the phone and says the helicopter is ready to go. The gang leader Danny orders them to start packing up. After some time, the D.E.A. shut off the power and move in. A shootout ensues. Broker starts fighting the gang members and Danny realizes that he's a rat. Somehow, Danny and his son drive off in a car with Broker in pursuit. Their car turns around due to a roadblock and Broker slides off the bike and fires some rounds. He drags Danny out of the car and pins him to the ground. Danny's son doesn't drop his gun, so Broker shoots him in the knee. He chants the cops, and pretends to reach for a gun, so the police unleash a hail of bullets. As Danny is dragged away by agents, he threatens to kill Broker and his family. 2 years later, Broker's daughter Maddie is doing her thing in the school playground. When a fat kid steals her hat, she asks for it back, but the bully pushes her to the ground. She gets up and smacks him in the nose. When Broker goes to pick her up from school, the bully's mom Cassie somehow thinks her son was wronged and lashes out at him. The school psychologist assures him that Maddie is a good girl and inquires about them moving to such a remote town. In the parking lot, Cassie convinces her husband Jimmy to do something. Jimmy starts insulting Maddie. When Broker turns his back, he tries to hit him, but Broker drops him to the ground, humiliating him further. As they are leaving, Cassie stares Broker with anger. While going in truck, she calls her husband a wussy. He says he just lost his balance and his son supports him saying he falls down as well. Cassie's brother Gator visits some local teenage tweakers and threatens them to stop cooking in his territory. When he gets home, Cassie tries to convince him to teach Dalton a lesson, and asks for some dope. The next day, psychologist suggests Broker to smooth things out. Since people in this town tend to hold a grudge, he goes to the dock and apologizes to Jimmy for the trouble he and Maddie caused for them. Then he goes from there. Later at a gas station, 2 of Gator's goons try to intimidate him. Broker says they're making a big mistake and suggests that they rethink whatever they are thinking. He goes back to pumping gas but they keep talking until one of them tries to grab Broker's hand. He smacks his head in the glass and kicks down the other guy. After some more kicks and punches they're both laying on the ground. Broker asks who sent them, but they don't answer. As Gator is cooking stuff in his lab he gets a call from the goons. He's shocked that they failed their mission. He goes at Broker's place himself and when they go out on a horse ride, he slashes a tire and enters the house. He steals Maddie's toy rabbit and goes to the basement, where he finds a bunch of files. He realizes that Broker is an ex-D.E.A. agent. While going, Gator also steals their cat before he leaves. In the evening, Maddie is worried when she can't find her cat. Broker goes looking for him and discovers the slashed tire and also finds the rabbit's head. Meanwhile Gator reads the file he took and learns about the gang Broker had infiltrated. He calls Cheryl and tells her to come over the next morning. Broker goes to threaten the confused Jimmy again thinking it was his doing. Meanwhile Gator and Cheryl figure out that Broker probably just laying low in this town and devise a plan to give them up to the gang in exchange for their distribution network, but Cheryl is hesitant due to her contact and the gang being a creep. Broker gives his daughter a new rabbit and they discuss her upcoming birthday. They decide to have a birthday party with the whole class to smooth things out. Cheryl goes to see the gang leader's lawyer, and gives him the file saying, it's a gift. The lawyer then visits the gang leader Danny, who still holds a massive grudge towards the man he thinks is responsible for his son's death. He tells the lawyer to take care of it. At school, Maddie invites her bully to the party. Cassie is a little taken aback but ultimately says it's his decision and he accepts. Tito arrives with some planks to replace the worn-out stairs and says he heard about the incident with the bully and his dad. Broker says, that's old news, they already made up, but Tito doubts that saying, it never goes away that easily. Broker comments how someone broke into their house but Tito says it definitely wasn't Jimmy. He doesn't have the guts for that, but it could have been his wife's brother Gator. He also warns him to be careful since the word is that he's cooking dope. Later in the day, the kids sing happy birthday to Maddie. Meanwhile Cheryl meets up with Cyrus from the biker gang to discuss the details. He asks what's in it for her and she tells him about the distribution plan. He doesn't confirm that they have a deal, and just asks her where to find Broker. Gator goes to warn his sister to stay away from Broker. She asks if he got any dope on him, and when he says he doesn't, she loses it and they start screaming at each other. As Gator leaves, Jimmy asks him not to give her dope anymore, because she's falling apart. Broker gets a call from D.E.A. agent who has gotten information he requested. He tells him about Gator's criminal history, as well as Cheryl, who has ties with a biker gang and is hanging out in their town all of a sudden. Next morning, Broker goes to have a word with Gator in the restaurant. He warns him to not mess with them anymore. Gator acts clueless. When he walks out, he receives up pictures of Cheryl and realizes he might be in trouble. Broker scopes out Gator's place and discovers the hidden lab in his boathouse. He finds packages of white stuff and confirms that Gator is up to no good, so he drills holes and fills the light bulbs with some fuel and sets the rest of the cans on the table for good measure. As he leaves, he finds his cat, but he is discovered by one of Gator's goons. He fights him off. After that, he picks the cat back up, but another one knocks him out. He wakes up to being tortured by the guys from the gas station incident. They enjoy their time beating him up and drowning him. Broker headbutts him, breaks another guy's ankle, kicks him in the water, frees his tight hands and proceeds to beat off the rest of them. When a guy who threatened his daughter attempts to get out of the water, Broker sends him to sleep with the fishes and he leaves with Kitty. Broker gets home and Maddie doesn't understand why they are suddenly in such a rush to leave. The biker gang arrives and Gator offers to draw them a map. Cyrus decides to get there by boat, and Gator asks Cheryl why there's so many of them. He starts getting cold feet and tells them he's not going. He makes an excuse that he would be the #1 suspect, so he should be in a public place when it goes down. So Cyrus takes Cheryl with him instead. Gator goes into town and makes sure the sheriff sees him before heading to a bar. When the biker gang reaches the shore, they hear horse noises and Cyrus sends one of his men to check it out. He goes to the stables, gun in hand, but Tito ambushes him. They start rolling around and beating each other until the guy knocks him down and goes for his gun. But Tito impales him with a pitchfork. He goes to his car and honks the horn, alerting Broker. But another gang member shoots him down. Broker shuts off the lights and calls for Maddie. After that, the biker gang starts moving in the house. Broker brings her to the basement and tells her to call cops and hide. He goes upstairs and grabs a shotgun. Maddie starts making the call, but a man is near her, so she hangs up. When the bikers kick open the door, Broker shoots one guy with shotgun. Maddie gasps and the men goes after her, while Broker turns the bikers into Swiss cheese. Maddie runs into the woods with a man still in pursuit. Broker sees this, but he is unable to follow due to Cyrus constantly firing bullets. Eventually he manages to hit Cyrus and starts running. The man catches up to Maddie and aims his gun, but Broker shows up at the right time and ends him. As they stare at each other, thinking that it's all over, but Cyrus tackles him. Broker tells Maddie to keep running. She reaches the dock and asks Cheryl for help. Meanwhile, Broker beats up Cyrus and stabs him with his own knife. By the time he reaches the dock, Cheryl is already leaving in the boat and Maddie is screaming for help. The police arrives and asks what's going on. He explains that 6 men broke into their house and kidnapped his daughter. Tito miraculously shows up and the sheriff calls an ambulance. Maddie calls the cops. The dispatcher connects her to Broker and she describes Cheryl's appearance and begs him to get her out of there. Broker instructs her to stay calm and look for something sharp. He tells the sheriff to track her phone and dispatch a chopper. Maddie calls again and says they've docked and describes Gator Boathouse. Broker immediately gets in a car and speeds towards it. Cheryl tries to get her out but she stabs her hand. Gator shows up and asks why she would bring a witness here, calling her mentally challenged. Cassie also shows up and asks if he heard about the shooting. He acts clueless but Maddie starts screaming. Cassie turns on the lights to see what's going on inside. The lab explodes. She grabs Maddie and tries to take her to the car. But Gator starts going off on her saying she's the one that started it all. His gun goes off and he ends up shooting his own sister. He grabs Maddie and gets in his car. Broker has finally arrived and chases after them. Police are also in pursuit and the sheriff orders to open the bridge. Gator still drives on it and Broker barely makes it, flipping his car in the process. Gator approaches the police car with a gun and Maddie starts begging him to stop, grabbing his attention. This gives Broker a chance to get the jump on him. He starts beating him up in rage. He puts a gun to Gator's head and sees Maddie crying. He calms down and tells Gator she just saved his life. After that we see Cassie is in an ambulance and Cheryl is arrested. Broker and Maddie goes home. Some time later, Danny get another visitor and he's shocked to see Broker. Broker says while smiling, "See you outside, Danny, I'll be waiting." The end. Thanks for watching.